All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. So I owe you guys this very important video about Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush, right? Everybody's got an opinion on this, and this is the most notable video or the most notable information that everybody seems to not be talking about, right? Okay, if you have not looked at the following thing that I'm going to show you, which is very important, relating to Beneil Dariush against Charles Oliveira, then you are not looking at a complete picture, because Charles Oliveira is an underdog, and I hear a lot of people, most people, picking Dariush. And it is very important that I take you on the ride that I'm going to take you on during this video, because I did this for a very notable other fight, and I was like the only person who picked it the way that I picked it, and they ended up winning. Now, there are some people picking this fight the way that, that it's, I'm spoiler, I'm going to pick Charles, but I'm going to show you guys why. And there are more people picking Charles than were picking this other guy that I will tell you about in this video, but I will show you exactly how these are very, very similar situations. So let's jump into it. Before we do, go ahead and subscribe. I did a test yesterday, right? I did a test. I was like, how about if I just don't say, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and let's see what happens. You want to know what happened? I lost 2 subscribers, okay? That's what happened, versus gaining subscribers over the day. So, sorry, I am going to remind everyone to please subscribe if you haven't yet. It is very helpful to the channel. I genuinely really appreciate it. I don't want to have to do this, but look, dude, I beta tested it. It didn't work. So, please subscribe to the channel. I would do it if it was you and I was watching your channel, I promise. And go ahead and like the video if you don't mind also. All right, so let's jump right into this thing now. Okay, so I just realized that I forgot to do something very important, so I need to do that really quick. And now, boom, boom, bam, boom. Now we are ready to show you what I was going to show you. I apologize for that delay. All right, so here's what we're looking at, okay? So, do you think that when you're looking at a fighter's streak of wins, that's important, right? I do. I think that's kind of important. I think, like, who did they beat is important, okay? So when you compare this fighter to this fighter and you're like, man, why do I feel the way that I feel about this guy? It's like, well, here's the thing. People who are combat sports fans, for whatever reason, have a very short memory. And generally, they remember the most recent fight. And if someone is a veteran, right, who's won a bunch in a row, but then they lose, and they lose decisively, everyone decides that that person is finished, okay? Oh, he's done, dude. He's washed, bro. He's washed. Everyone does this. Everyone does this. And then they don't think about many other factors. Main one in this case being quality of opponents, okay? Quality of opponents. Now, Charles Oliveira, he lost to Islam Makhachev right there. That's his last fight. And everybody's like, oh, he must be washed, dude. He gets touched, dude. He gets touched in every fight. I want to bring you back to a moment in time where Max Holloway was about to fight Calvin Kattar, okay? So Max Holloway had just lost 2 in a row to Alexander Volkanovski, who we now know is the pound-for-pound greatest fighter in the world, but he had lost 2 in a row to Volkanovski, razor-thin decisions at the time, okay? And every single person was picking Kattar. They're like, he's going to box his brains in, dude. Kattar's going to box his brains in. And I was like, guys, it's Max Holloway, okay? If it weren't for the Volkanovski fights, who would be picking Calvin Kattar? No one. If this fight was happening, if you had Calvin Kattar at the exact point he was at, and you had Max Holloway at the exact point he was at before the Volkanovski fights, literally not one person on earth would be picking Calvin Kattar. No one. No one would be picking Calvin Kattar. And that is the exact situation that you're in now. Although, let's go back to what happened then. I picked Holloway. I made videos about it. I was like, what is everyone looking at? Calvin Kattar is good, but what has he done that indicates he's going to be able to beat Max Holloway? Max Holloway's going to come back, and he's going to come back strong. It wasn't like he looked washed in that fight. He just lost a razor-thin decision to another great fighter, okay? And then Max Holloway beat the brakes off of Volkanovski, okay? Beat the brakes off him. Now, why is everyone picking Charles Oliveira to lose again? Like, why is everyone picking him to lose? Okay, if you're honest with yourself, it's because you're like, well, you know, he had his run, now he got knocked off his pedestal, whatever. Like, there's no way that anyone seriously thinks that from a stylistic matchup that Dariush is some dominant thing that's going to beat Charles Oliveira. Based on what? But what? Show me the evidence that stylistically Dariush is some huge, overwhelming favorite. Okay? He throws wild, okay? He's got great strike, like he's dangerous on the feet, but he throws wild. He's not like super sit there, super crisp guy. He's not like Makhachev. Makhachev is 10 times more surgical and crisp than on the feet than Dariush. It doesn't mean he's not going to catch Oliveira, right? It doesn't mean that he's not going to catch him. And look, it doesn't mean 100% that Charles is going to win. But everybody picking Dariush, I'm like, I don't understand, okay? And the ground game, no one has better jiu-jitsu than Charles Oliveira. No one. Dariush does not have better jiu-jitsu than Charles Oliveira. He doesn't. Let's just put that to bed. He does not have better jiu-jitsu than Charles Oliveira. So the only way that he wins is if he stuns him, jumps on him, and submits him the same way that Islam Makhachev did. Okay? Charles Oliveira is okay. So, my opinion is people are forgetting to look at this. They're going off of streaks. They're all, this guy's won. Look at how many in a row he's won, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row, dude. This is Dariush. He's won 8 in a row, dude. Wow. And Charles Oliveira, he lost his last fight. Okay, but before that, he won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in a row. All right? 11 in a row. Now, let's just dive into the weeds just a little bit on who these two guys fought, okay? Dariush, Thiago Moises, decision. Drew Dober, armbar. Frank Camacho, submission. Drakkar Klose, knockout. Scott Holtzman, KO, spinning back fist, 2020. Diego Ferreira, split decision. Tony Ferguson, decision. Gamrot, decision. Okay? None of these guys are in the top 5. Okay? Now, I realize everybody said the same thing about Islam Makhachev. Is anyone seriously under the impression that Islam Makhachev and Beneil Dariush have had a similar level of dominance? Because no. Okay? No. Let's skip over here to Charles Oliveira. Okay? So just right, like we know he lost to Islam Makhachev in the second round. But let's look at his win streak. Clay Guida, Christos Giagos, Jim Miller, David Timur, Nick Lentz, Jared Gordon, and now we get to the creme de la creme. He beat in a row Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. Okay? So just to recap, before Islam, his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins were Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, Kevin Lee. And if you look here, okay, let's look at how he won. Clay Guida, submission in the first round. Giagos, submission in the second round. Jim Miller, submission in the first round. David Timur, submission in the second round. Nick Lentz, submission or TKO, second round. Jared Gordon, first round knockout. Kevin Lee, third round submission. Tony Ferguson, he wins an insanely dominant decision. Michael Chandler, second round knockout. Dustin Poirier, third round submission. Justin Gaethje, first round choke. Okay? That is what a dominant streak looks like. That's what a dominant streak looks like. Dariush, decision over Gamrot. Decision over Tony Ferguson. Split decision over Diego Ferreira. That's his last 3 fights. Okay? His last 3 have all been decisions. One of them is split to Diego Ferreira, who is, let's see, where's Diego Ferreira's last, who lost 3 in a row. Split decision here, knockout. Okay? So when you're talking about who these guys have beat, you are talking about a different universe, okay? Different universe. Charles Oliveira was one of the most dominant 155-pounders ever. And then he lost to Islam Makhachev. And so let's actually do that. Let's look at Islam Makhachev, who beat him, right? And just compare to Dariush. Makhachev, okay, his last 5 were, Alexander Volkanovski, but, going into the Oliveira fight, he goes first round knockout Bobby Green, first round submission Dan Hooker, submission over Thiago Moises, third round submission over Drew Dober, and dominant decision over Ramos. Okay? That does not look like Dariush's record. And I realize that everybody falls into this thing where it's like, oh man, you know, this guy's not getting any love. You know, it's like all of us fall into the same thing where if a guy keeps winning and he's not getting a title shot, and we're like, this guy needs a title shot, man, because we feel for these guys that are like not good at promoting themselves. Of course, you're like, man, I really want to see this guy do well, because you could just see, it feels like they're kind of getting hosed by the UFC. And so it's like you overblow how good they are. All right. Charles Oliveira is an objectively better fighter than Beneil Dariush with a 100 times better resume. Okay? Now, does that mean that he's for sure going to win? Of course not. But him being an underdog is patently ludicrous. Ludicrous. Absurd. Okay? It makes no sense. I can't connect those two dots at all. How is he a favorite? You know? So, X's and O's wise, Charles is a crisper striker who has shown that he can absorb a shot and survive and then win, right? He is only in his last, dude, he won how many fights in a row? He won 11 straight fights and then lost to Islam. The only time where he got hurt and then it cost him was against Islam. Now, Islam jumped right in, right? So now everybody thinks like, oh, everybody was missing out. If they would have just jumped right on Charles when he got hurt instead of being scared of getting on the ground, they would have won. Dude, it's Islam Makhachev. Stop discounting these guys' skills, dude. Do you really think that there's another guy at 55 who grapples like Islam? Altogether grapples like Islam? There's not. You know? Charles Oliveira is the best jiu-jitsu fighter in 155, without a doubt. Best at jiu-jitsu. Not necessarily best grappler. Definitely the best at jiu-jitsu. Dariush, I mean, if you guys want to tell me that you think Dariush is going to dominate Charles Oliveira in no. And if you're telling me he's going to dominate him on the feet, no. No. I don't agree with you. So explain to me how these people are all picking Dariush like, they're like, oh, Dariush is going to beat him for sure. How? How are you so confident? Like, explain it to me. How are you so confident? I don't understand. Did you guys forget about the run that Charles Oliveira was on prior to that? You know, it's like everybody knows he got stuck in all those fights. And he won every single time too. You think he doesn't want to get this shit back? You think he doesn't want to get it back? Dariush is not Islam Makhachev. I don't understand what everybody's looking at. I'm picking Charles Oliveira. End of story. Boom. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Don't be a prick. I love you guys.